Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Picture this, a domed city where everything is within 5, maybe 15 minutes of a walk. No cars, no crime, no obesity. Everyone has the perfect job. They were literally born. Your neighbor plays the piano or a Shakespearean reading in the park every night. Sounds like paradise, right? Wrong. This is Star Trek The Next Generation's The Masterpiece Society. And they accidentally wrote the most terrifying, centrally planned dystopia in television history. Not only, but they have expanded upon the lore, perhaps unintentionally, of the original series Space Seed of Khan, and then, of course, its follow-up of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Let me set the scene. The Enterprise shows up and discovers a stellar core fragment heading towards Moab 4, which is discovered to have a colony of humans living in a biodome. 200 years ago, as I say that, I can hear Ricardo Montalban, 200 years ago on Earth, I was a prince. I can't do his voice, but you know what it sounds like. 200 years ago, a group of eugenics-loving, let's call them geniuses, built a biosphere to survive the harsh environment of the planet of which they settled. Every single one of them was genetically engineered for a specific role. Scientists, artists, farmers, leaders, advocates. You have the Prime Minister.
I don't want to be rude, Captain, but we don't wish to interact with outsiders.
These people removed freedom, agency, surprise parties, hence their not wanting to interact. But this isn't just fantasy. This isn't just 90s storyline. This is now becoming reality. Enter what's called the 15-minute city. So you've got Moab 4 with its biodome, and then you've got 15-minute cities such as Saudi Arabia's The Line. Physical layout, everything is inside one giant living structure, dome, line. Literally, it's impossible to leave without permission. 15-minute city? It's a 15-minute biodome. You can't even walk 16 minutes away without hitting a wall. Central planning on steroids. A council of planners decided before you were born what you'll do for the rest of your life. And then, of course, surveillance and social credit. They instantly know what you're doing, when you're doing it, or about to do it. And then the best part of all, the exit problem. When some citizens want to leave with the Enterprise, Ron Canada's character, the advocate, the judicial, flips out, saying, no, you can't leave. Everybody is a specially designed piece to make this society function. Eventually, their leader, Connor, says, you may leave, and should you want to return, we will welcome you back. The dark irony of this is that since the 60s, Star Trek has had a negative take on eugenics. From Khan to the augments to Bashir. The opposition to eugenics in the early Star Trek episode most likely stemmed from the horrors of World War II, which were then compounded by eugenicists such as Margaret Sanger and her Planned Parenthood. Star Trek spent decades saying eugenics equals bad, and then drops this episode where the eugenics planet is the happiest, healthiest, most cultured place humans ever built. The cognitive dissonance is delicious. Gene Roddenberry snuck a based warning into his own utopian show, and nobody noticed in this case for, 30-some plus years? All right, let's segue into Picard's attitude on this.
They've managed to turn a dubious scientific endeavor into dogma. It was a bad idea whose time is long past, giving away their humanity with this genetic manipulation. Many of the qualities that they breed out, the uncertainty, self-discovery, the unknown, these are many of the qualities that make life worth living.
Here you have Picard being the voice of the earlier Star Trek. Eugenics is bad. Then you have Moab 4 on the surface appearing to present an idyllic, perfect, or near perfect utopia. And then you have Picard describing a life that lacks self-determination. And that is the crux of this episode, that no matter how perfect it is on the outside, if one does not have the ability to have agency, to have self-determination, that's not life.
I want to live my life knowing that my future was written. My boundaries had been already set. Would you?
Hannah Bates recognizes that genetic engineering has failed. It was designed to anticipate every want and need, and it failed. This causes her to begin to doubt, to investigate, ask questions, and eventually to seek asylum, which then causes a societal panic.
If we're so brilliant, how come we didn't invent any of these things?
Well, maybe necessity really is the mother of invention. You never really look for something until you need it.
But all my needs have been anticipated and planned for before I was even born. All of us on this colony have been living in the Dark Ages.
The episode Masterpiece Society is nuanced, to say the least. It is an onion, each layer revealing another gut punch. I have to lay the found work. This is part 1. Part 2, I'm going to go into something that a lot of you may not be ready to hear. Let's segue to Ron Canada confronting Day Young.
The welfare of this colony would be best served by rejoining the human race.
She has been contaminated by the people on that ship.
So much for the welfare of this colony.
You are not taking her with you.
I'm leaving. And I'll tell you something else. There are at least a dozen others who are ready to go with me.
This is the reason these smart cities are enclosed or will intend to be closed. This is the reason the Masterpiece Society is enclosed. Anything from the outside risks derailing it. Even the slightest change is a potential catastrophe. This is the motivation behind Ron Canada's character's fear, and as we segue into Connor and Picard's meeting, Connor's fear.
If you force them to stay, you will be suppressing their human rights.
If even a handful leave, the damage to this society will be devastating. They are the ones who will inherit the social chaos that will follow for generations.
I cannot ignore the requests of humans who ask for transport away from here.
This isn't just classic Star Trek. This is nuanced 90s Star Trek. We've already dealt with the issue of eugenics in the 60s and in the early 80s. Now we're saying, what if it actually looks good from the outside? And as you can tell, it doesn't take long to scratch the veneer and find its crappy pressboard underneath. How's that meme? That's a nice utopia you've got over there. It'd be a shame if someone pointed out the flaws. And in part 2, I am going to reveal what is, in my opinion, the actual message that's delivered within 2 or 3 lines. And it slipped by the censors, the audience, and the fan base.
We make mistakes. Genetic manipulation or not, nobody's perfect.
Star Trek accidentally proved that these so-called 15-minute cities only work if you're willing to genetically engineer obedience into children. Not just children, but at conception, maybe even prior to conception, who can hook up with whom, and that the result is to trap everyone under a dome forever. So next time someone tells you the 15-minute city is just convenient urban planning, show them this episode and ask which part they want first, the eugenics or the dome, which they can never leave. I appreciate your time. If you wouldn't mind doing the like, share, subscribe, and if there's a notification, that way you are aware when part 2 drops.